I'm a super fan, man. It's fantastic that you guys are even doing this for the songwriting community and just for music itself, and the way that you're connecting people to co-write in the future now, we don't have to know someone to make a bomb record, man. And you guys are giving us that opportunity at a longer reach.
Hello. So, all right, today I talk with Jae Cashtro, and we get really deep into the business side of music, contracts, entertainment law, copyright, PROs. But it's a wonderful conversation just about everything that he's got going on in his world of music. Then get into We Should Write Sometime and some possible great things that he's working on with some people that he met on the app.
Did you see me good?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me figure this out.
Yeah, no problem.
There we go. Love it. Dude. Let me get this off of here. Sweet, man. Yeah, so you're redoing the studio?
Yeah, remodeling a few things. Switching a few things from one wall to the next.
Are those the sound barrier things?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm working on Auralex has this app that helps you with the acoustics of your room, depending on the measurements of your wall.
What's it called? Auralex?
Auralex, look, well, hold on.
Yeah.
These guys.
Oh, sweet.
Let me get the name.
It helps with soundproof everything?
Yeah, so these are basically the pads for the monitors.
Yeah.
And then I went across their website for a few things, and I was just looking up about acoustics and just learning on how to best position the foam and whatnot, doing a little research, and I came across they have an app that's for that. So when I found
what do you do? Put the app like in the middle of the room and it'll tell you?
No, you grab the measurements of
I got you. I thought it's like, no, move that like 6 inches to the left. You're like, geez, that thing's pretty dope.
Well, we're gonna get there soon, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so like behind me, this wall, there's another office space right behind.
All right.
So, and we just had this awesome dude, Chris Essex, come in here and to kind of tell his story a little bit, but he has a song called Swipe Right on Me. And so like, about dating us. So yeah, so he came in, we talked, and he played it. But the office right next to us, I'm sure they can hear us. Like, so we put these things up just to try to help. But like,
see if something happens,
I can hear them, so I know they can hear us.
Right?
Like, whatever.
You can do as much as you can get. We're not gonna get it 99%.
And where exactly are you located?
Washington Heights, Manhattan, New York.
Sweet.
So
yeah.
I'm from New York City. Basically, I'm part of what we call Uptown, and it's called Washington Heights. Now on Google, like on the map, it kind of changed because they updated the name. So now it's called like Hudson Heights, but in reality, I come from when it was called Washington Heights.
Is that where they're building that huge building, and I guess like Hudson Yards, maybe? Is that?
No, I don't think so. But that could be downtown. That could be downtown because the whole Manhattan, the Hudson River covers almost the whole New York City, kind of. And Manhattan is right on the Hudson, like. So I'm from Manhattan, so that's like basically the borough of New York City where I'm from.
Got it.
The east that I'm from, it's Uptown Manhattan, which is called Washington Heights, which is now called Hudson Heights.
I mean, how do they just go and change it like that? What is that all about?
You know what happens when changes come and the rent shoots up and and people just start buying land and they just start. One day I didn't notice till one day I was Googling I was on Google Maps and I was looking around whatever and I see Hudson Heights. I'm like, wow, like I remember when the subway map the maps on the subway said Washington Heights. Now, it says Hudson Heights, which is okay. I don't mind. But I think it's just the upbringing of the community.
Sure.
There are people buying condos. This is getting filled with condos left and right. So it's like, that's kind of where I think the name kind of came from, changing.
It's like, you hear people putting names on buildings for donating a bunch of money and, all that good stuff. And you're like, how do I get it so I can change a neighborhood on Google Maps to like my name without telling anyone? They just look on a map one day and they're like, oh, it's not Nashville anymore. It's McCartyville. Like,
there you go, Nashville. Hey, I gotta go to McCartyville. We gotta go check out
like,
Nashville.
What? And like, look at your map. Update it. But dude, I'm so pumped to chat with you for a little bit, and just because I think you've got an awesome story and been a big advocate, and I can't be more appreciative of that for what you are doing, and we're excited to hear about it. But it just, obviously some background's always helpful because you're a hustler and putting out some good stuff, and I think it's just good when we can hear it from you guys of a little bit of your story.
All right, so I go by the name of Jae Cashtro. I'm a recording artist, songwriter, producer. I've been making music since I was 13 years old. I'm 33 now, so got quite some time working. But I didn't take it serious till like 1920. So in my early 20s, that's when I actually took it really serious. I was part of a group called Nasty Noise, that's where I developed from. Shout out to everybody who was a part of the group. We did phenomenal. We did great. We were very young, but we had something that was so capturing. It was just, we had something that it was like pop music mixed with hip hop. And it was kind of with that era where the techno was moving in, around the time when Pitbull was kind of introducing the world to that sound. So we were kind of on that that was the genre that we were. And we were, we were a trio. It was three of us, two rappers, one singer. And then we had a personal producers, shout out to OD, Beats, Metro, rest in peace, and, Clyde and all those guys. And we were just, working in different, in underground studios at our homes, and it just happened to be that's where I fell in love with music. We developed a group. We had our personal engineer, which was the main producer. Shout out to Metro, rest in peace. He had passed not too long ago. And we just started cooking, man. It was like, we just forgot about the world. And that was like our sanctuary. We would chill. We would meet there every day. We'll eat together there, which is right. And we would just produce so many records. And one day that was when MySpace was like the thing. MySpace was the place where, and I miss MySpace because I believe that I come from an era of music where I saw the Napster, I saw the things before the CDs, when I was, and I'm talking about Nasty Noise, and this is when I'm 19, 20, so things are already changing. Technology has already boomed in, but I come with an era where it was mixtapes, and you had to go to your local, store, not record store. They called it record store, but now we're at CDs, right? So you go to the CD store, and you basically pick up these mixtapes for $5 a pop. And some of them had music. Some of them would be like Hot 97 Volume 7, and then it would rise to like volume, I don't know what, right? And then you would always catch up with the new one. But then at the same time, so at 13 years old, I'm gonna go from the beginning. And at 13 years old, I'm hanging around my cousin, and he's a bit older than me, and he's hanging around with his older friends. And they just start freestyling and like beatboxing, and I'm new to this. I'm a young cat. I'm just chilling, and I'm watching it on the TV forever. I want to be those guys on the TV.
Yeah.
I love the Cash Money, the Jay-Z, the Nas, those guys.
Lil Wayne, was that when Lil Wayne just came out? Or was it
Lil Wayne was out, but Lil Wayne wasn't the Lil Wayne that people know as of now. So he was part of Cash Money Records, and he was the youngest artist on there. But he was really talented. But the main artist was Juvenile, and then they kind of like became a group, and they came out as a group. But then he went solo, and that's when it boomed up. They got a little older. But that was one of my biggest inspirations growing up, the Cash Money Millionaires. And that's what like our group was always like, because when I was young, at 13, I'm chilling, they hanging out, they're freestyling, and I kind of like fell in love because with the cipher. Because when it came to me, I didn't know what to do. And they were like just egging me on, like, do it, whatever, man. Just say whatever. And I'm like, yo, I don't know how to rap. I don't know what you guys doing. They're like, no, do it. So I just started putting words together. I knew that, it's like English. I thought about it like English class. It's words, it's poems. I wrote poems at a very early time too.
written essays in school. So I kind of put that together, and I kind of just started putting words together. I was blabbering. I don't even know what I was saying, but I was saying a few things. But I realized something at that moment. And, you know, when it was my time to step out and let the other person go, I just felt a feeling that I've never felt. And that feeling, I've only felt it when I had my daughter a few years ago. And that's when I fell in love with music, you know. And I was like, wow, I really did it. And like, I was so happy, and it felt so good. And it was like, I went home, and then I started just like putting my poems into kind of raps and just trying to put it together, because I started rapping. And, you know, what I did was I was like, okay, after a while, you know, I did that for a few months, and I wouldn't tell anybody. And, you know, I would do it alone. Until then I saw people doing the freestyle ciphers again. So I started joining them, and I would say whatever I wanted to, then I'll leave and I'll come back. And then that's when we go back to the store where you get the $5 CDs. Now they're selling instrumental $5 CDs. So it's basically a CD with free beats. So it's like a bunch of beats.
You know, you can buy
tracks from records that are already out, like rappers that are hot already, but you get no vocals. You got straight beats. And like at the time, I didn't have anybody to produce for me. Finding a producer wasn't like now going on BeatStar. You know, finding a producer wasn't just your neighbor was a producer or your friend was a producer. It's like, no, producers were producers, and they were on TV. And to get to those guys, you had to have what it takes to get to those guys. So so like I just started, I was like, okay, so maybe, you know, I could grab these beats and start rapping on them, my songs. And that's how it kind of started happening. And I fell in love with the process of just writing on the record, never recorded. And then fast forward to 16, I'm still not taking it real, like I'm not taking it serious still, but I still love it, and I'm still involved. And now I'm going to ciphers everywhere. But people are now making music more around my neighborhood. So now it's a bigger community. So then one of my guys, you know, one of my best friends, A Flames, shout out to A Flames, one of the first producers that ever gave me a beat or helped me put a record together, you know, and we still work to this day. And he started making beats on Fruity Loops and recording on Acid, and, you know, Acid Pro. So it was like 2 channels, just your vocal and the beat, and then you do whatever you could. But that's when the process of recording happened. So I started learning that at a young age. You know, I wasn't producing, I was more just writing and being an artist. Then fast forward, then I start meeting the guys that I become part of a group with. Now I have this studio, and we're just making records. We release CDs, and our buzz started to pick up, and we're starting to perform, and we're starting to do a lot of things. The name starts ringing bell. MySpace, we're huge on MySpace. People putting our songs on their pages, you know, on their top 8s, you know, comments. It was a really good time. But things just didn't work out at the end, and things just like kind of went to their own side. You know, that happens. And we stayed friends, you know, we stayed brothers. It's just, you know, it just, things happen. And at that time,
it's a relationship, right? Like not all relationships end in marriage, right? You know, it's
right. And it's okay. And we're still friends, and like, we're still friends. And I'm, you know, I'm still making music, and they're not, but they're gonna get back. Like, they've been telling me, like, hey, I want to start producing a little for you. They took a little break, and now
and they're like, I want to get back into it.
And I never gave up. And like, but there was a point where I stopped for a second, because we were gonna get signed, but they wanted to sign us as a group. So, you know, it kind of hurt to like not be able to take it to the next level when you've been working so hard. But things happen. So at that time, I start trying to find myself and get into music. So I start hanging out a little bit around people who are making music, but I'm still a little disappointed, you know. But I'm like, you know, I love it. So that love just keeps carrying me on. So then I come across this school called IAR, the Institute of Audio Research, and I already had some background of making music, but we were working in a studio. So now it's time for me I didn't have anyone to record me. Like, everything just went away. Like, all the producers I was working with, just, it wasn't, you know, we kind of went our different ways and I kind of like found myself like, wow. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back to school, but I want to go back to school for music. So I want to learn how to produce. I want to learn how to engineer more. I already knew, because I was already doing it so much, but I wasn't an expert. So I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna go to school for something, I'm gonna go to school for this, because I stopped going to school for music. At that point, I dropped out, and I just started, when we were going to that studio, it was like in the my girlfriend used to visit me at that studio. Like, it was like, you want to come see me, come to the studio, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you know where I am, right?
You know what a five is. You want to outside, you know what I mean? So whatever. So it's like, that kind of thing happened. But then I was like, you know, I'm back in the school. So being back in the school brought me back into like being in the world, that community again. So I'm kind of like, you know, now I'm in Pro Tools. Pro Tools is a big thing at this time. So now we're working on that and whatnot. And then I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to go on a solo. I think I'm ready to go solo. I spend a lot of time learning, you know, the production, the music business part of it. I did a lot of studying in that because the classes had music business in them. Then I did my own studies and kind of self-taught myself. And stuff like that.
Was that the self-study part? Was that just going on the internet and searching like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Or was there like one source that you always went to and said,
So it was a few. So there was one class, which was my favorite class. I mean, the production class was dope being in the studio, but I already knew what being in the studio felt like. But I didn't know what the music business was like. You know, I didn't know so much of it. Like I would copyright my songs, but I didn't know so much. Like I didn't know at that time when I was so young that you needed a writer's and a publisher's account to really make your money come in. You know, you could. I knew that.
How did you? And this is that tactical stuff that I think we, as we kind of purpose these conversations, and I think they're so good because you are like comparative to a lot of our users, an expert when it comes to the business side. And so it's going, hey, when you say things like, hey, I copyrighted my music, I think a lot of people, I get a lot of questions about that directly to me, like, hey, should I, and how do I, right? And so kind of what was your, I guess, first step of, hey, I need to copyright my music. What did you do to do that?
So when I started growing, when I started developing more of the music, where like I'm talking about the 13 to the 16s, I started hearing the older people talk about copyright. So I didn't, at that time, it was only copyright. Like you didn't know much about the publishers, you know? You didn't know about the ASCAPs. You didn't know about the BMIs. It wasn't that big. I mean, it must have been big, but not to the young guys, you know? So the young crowd. So I just knew you got a copyright. But then what we learned, the old man's or the poor man's copyright, right? The poor man, that's what they call it, the poor man, not the old man, the poor man. So I would hear them say like, oh, dude, you record the record, the tape or the CD at the time, and you mail it to yourself, certified mail, but don't open it. And if you ever go to court, you got to sue somebody for it. That's when you open it, and it'll have the date on it, and it's certified. It was yours. It was delivered to you, and you hold it. And you know what's funny? That not too long ago during quarantine, I started doing this like an hour on my live, just showing new music and different things that I was doing. And around that time, my mother was cleaning my old house, right? Because my mother's house. She was cleaning her house, and she called me and she told me she found something. And she was, shout out to my mom, man. She's been a hell of a supporter throughout the whole. It was hard in the beginning. She didn't understand, but then when she saw me performing, she was like, "Oh, you're my daddy Yankee." So I was like, "All right." And so she really saw that I had what it took. So she called me, and I'm gonna get to the question, but this is a lovely story. And she called me to tell me she found something from me and Nasty Noise. And it was so old. It was like 15 to 10 years old. And it was the yellow envelope mailed to my mom's house, Nasty Noise LLC. And when it was sealed for like 10 or 15 years, man, it had dust. It was crazy. And I opened it in the middle for the first time in the live because I found it before I went live. And I thought about like, hey, maybe I could share this with my fans. You know, this is kind of like historical for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's part of my story. So I did that, and it was awesome, man. So going back to that, so I would do the poor man's copyright, and I would mail it to myself, and I would stash it in case I would have to sue somebody. And then along the lines, I started hearing that the poor man's copyright doesn't really work, right? So it could have helped, but it doesn't really work.
Right.
So, and it depends which judge you get, because if the judge ate and he's hungry, he might let you go. But if he's mad, he's not going to take that. So you're going to lose the case. So
that's great.
So then I started looking and asking people, like, what is copyright? Like, I know about the poor man's copyright, and I'm talking about these older cats that I was in the studio with. So I started going to studios with the older dudes, and they're like, oh, copyright is when you basically, you know, claim ownership of the record. And I'm like, yeah, but I used to do it like this. They were like, oh, no, it doesn't work anymore like that. You need to do it like this. So they gave me the website, copyright.gov, and it was super confusing and super crazy. And I was like, all right, this just looks too crazy to learn. And I just went on the internet, and I started the process.
Yeah.
I started learning about the open cases, the closed cases. After a few months, you get the certified letter. And at the time, they didn't have the MP3 thing. And I was just learning. So I was basically the manager kind of a Nasty Noise. I was one of the artists, but I managed a lot of things. I was booking the shows. Yeah. I was uploading everything on the social networks. I had all the social networks. I would talk to the people. I would make the connections. Yeah. And I was doing the copyright. So I was copywriting our records, and I was just uploading it with the lyrics. And I actually showed the lyrics on the IG Live, and it was me typing it up on my computer, and it was the lyrics. It wasn't even the music like that. It was just copywriting the lyrics. But then as time went forward, then they came up with, you can upload an MP3. So now it's faster. Now you can copy, and it took months to copyright. So you had to wait till it got there. You had to wait till it got processed. And you had to wait till you got that letter in the mail 6 months later saying, and you didn't know what you were going to do. Should I hold the record? Should I release it? Should I show my friends? What should I do? and it's like, right? And then, so now they actually did something. So that's when I went, so I knew a little bit, and then I stopped. That's when I went to school. So when I went to school, I got the real knowledge, right? Yeah. I went to school, and they had the music business class, which was one of my favorite classes. Yeah. And in that class, that's when I learned about the writer's contract, like when you're doing tours, you know. Yeah. That's when I found out about the terms and conditions and the options. Yeah. And these words that they mean something totally different in the word of law, and they mean totally different when you're having this discussion, and people don't know that. Right. And I think that's where the people get confused the most, because if I say option to you, it's not the option that you believe, it's the option that you think or you believe is going to be. Right. Right. So then so I started, so in class, I was writing notes. I was always in that class, in the front, always learning, because I knew this was the part that they weren't going to teach me in the streets. And this was the part that everybody gets screwed, you know? And this is a part that most of the people don't know. And the creatives really don't know. And the creatives don't want to know. And it's, you know, I understand, I get it, because I was there at one point. It's like, you want to hire a manager, you want to be the artist, put your feet up, and everything is taken care of. But then that artist is the one, honestly, I don't even know the artist like that exists, unless you have a real big advance that you're going to be paying somebody so much money.
It's a loan, man. It's a loan.
It's a loan. Right? So if you're going to pay that person all that money to do everything for you, then that's okay. But, you know, I realized that I couldn't do that. So I had to learn on my own. So I went to the class, and I started, you know, talking to the professor, always asking questions, then I would come home, do my own research. I had my notes. I would go back to my notes. And I was really studying the music business heavy, because one of my passions is to become like an entertainment lawyer. You know, like I want to be in entertainment law, because I like that part of it. Yeah. You know, I like it. I mean, there's a lot to learn, but I like it. So I was always, you know, like I was always interested. So that's when I kind of started learning about it. So then I went back to do the copyright, and that's when I learned that you can upload the record and it's faster. And that's when I learned that you have to do, you know, the sound recording, if it's a mastered, if it's the record that's already recorded and stuff like that. But there's a great article that I read, and, you know, I have the link, so I can send it to you, and maybe you can share it with the rest of the community. And it's step-by-step instructions of how to copyright your record the best way with the copyright.gov, and it's the most legitimate way. And it gives you step-by-step. And it's not free. The link is free, but the copyright is like $65. Right. So at the end of the day, but, you know, I think you can do a compilation. I think you can try to get a few. They have different packages now where you can get, maybe you can copy. If you haven't published anything, I think you can let go. You can copyright like up to 3 or 4 works of it if it's not published all together under this kind of package they have, where they didn't have when I started, but now they have it. So it's like they've been more accessible, more easier, more friendly, and it's the legitimate way of copywriting your music. So I'm going to share that with you.
No, and thanks. And I love this, right? And I think this is, like, you said one thing on copyright, and this is the stuff that I think capturing what your process was, right? And like what it used to be and what it is now. But so many people that I talk to that are just getting into this industry to try to be singers and songwriters and musicians, if I asked how they copyright or what it is, I'm going to get 15 different answers if I ask 15 different people.
Right.
And to me, it makes me think as we progress and have a very robust roadmap for what we want to do and how to help, is how do we shorten the timeline for everybody of this is an important thing to do and know, but how do we give you back more time to spend on your music and do those things versus the business side. But you got to learn it, you got to know it, but then it's the amount of effort that it takes. And you know, you have this incredible passion and drive that, you know, is fantastic. And I think a lot of people, you know, just want to do music, right? And it's, God, there's this whole other side to this thing, which is the business and knowing how it works, but it's confusing.
Right, very confusing.
And complicated, and it changes all the time. And so it's just good to hear the story and process and things that you went through to get to where you are now, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I think as a creator, I think it's something I had to fall in love with young, because I knew I wanted it as a career. Because if you just want to make music just to make music and show it to your friends and do it out of love, then maybe you don't need to do the business side, because you don't even care if it gets played or not. You know, you don't care. But if you're thinking about it as a career, then I think it's something that you want to put more time into than creating. And creating comes easy. You know, if you're a creator, you know that you're going to create whenever you can. I mean, there's writer's block, there's obstacles that get in the way, but we are creators, so we just gotta give that time and get back to it. You know, it's like this is what I do. I do a lot of time management, you know, and it was hard, but it's like, okay. And then another thing, like I already had the drive because I knew I wanted it as a career. But shout out to A Flames again. He does a lot of like consulting with me in music, and he helps with my direction with a lot of things. And he always told me, you know what it is? People have, or you or whatever, got to take it like a business. You have to see yourself as a business. If you see it as a career.
Exactly.
If it's a business, you know, you can't just open up a business. You got to get permits. You got to get an LLC made, a corporation. You know what I'm saying? You got to get all of these things.
Yeah.
So you got to get all of these things. And that's the same thing with the music. It's like, if you see yourself as a business, if you see yourself as as something that a career that wants to make money off of this, you got to get your license. You got to get your stuff, you know. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I think I can't, it froze on you. There you go.
All right, froze, right? Let me see what's going on.
It kicked back in a little bit. And that's why I like, this is awesome, because one of my interns will edit this all down. And
okay, all right, I don't know. So let me see, how can, oh man, I don't know what's wrong with my Wi-Fi.
All good.
Hey, can you see me?
There you go. Yeah, I can see you.
All right, I can't see you though.
Oh no.
But can you see yourself? Like, can you see me talking to you?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it like that. Don't worry about it.
It's not as.
Huh?
Hold on, maybe it's just trying to catch up.
Hey, I got you now.
Sweet. Good.
All right. Hopefully this is good.
I love it. I love the technology, right?
Right. It's supposed to be better than ever. You know what? Let me see. Maybe we could do it on my phone. Let me see if my phone looks better. Give me. Send me the link to my. I'm gonna get on my phone right quick. 2 seconds. All right.
Cool.
All right.
Do you need me to send you it? Oh, there we go. You see, can you hear me? There you go.
All right.
Perfect.
So yeah, so I believe, like, you know, it's a business, so you have to treat it as one. So
yeah,
you know, if you want to make a living off of it, you have to have, you know, your priorities straight. So you have to have your copyright, you have to have your masters, you have to have, you know, your PROs.
Yeah.
And you have to know what you're getting yourself into, especially when you sign a contract, you know.
How did you know which PRO to go with, or which did you decide to go with and why?
So ASCAP was always more popular. I think BMI is a younger PRO,
mm-hmm.
and ASCAP was always in the air. So I always heard ASCAP as a kid. So I think just hearing it, being around, I'm not saying that BMI is not, you know, not as good. It's great.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm just always curious, you know, like just learning.
Yeah, it's just, it was like a security thing at that time, because I was young and that's all I knew. Like, I didn't know BMI at the time. I didn't get to hear about BMI. I only heard about ASCAP. So I was like, okay, ASCAP, but I know I got to be down with a PRO, so I'm ASCAP. And yeah, so I've been with ASCAP for at least 10 years.
Oh, nice. And you know, it's one of those things. What I'm finding, right, is with the, you know, thousands of users that we have, 60% of them don't have a PRO membership. And what I'm learning, right, and it's me going back to when I used to play music and was in a band, and you know, rewrote some pretty you know, pretty classic early 2000, I guess mid 2000, you know, girl sappy love song type things. But anyway, you there? Lost you. You there, my man?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. So yeah, like, and I asked because, you know, and I was saying, you know, and like when I was back playing with the band, we wrote some, like, you know, cheesy love songs, you know, and put them on a CD and cut it out of some dude's room, and it was awesome. But if someone were to ask me at that point, like, hey, you know, what is BMI or ASCAP? The only response I would have had is, I probably skipped that class in college. Like, I don't know, like, what are you asking me, right? But that just goes to show, like, I think there's a lot of opportunity for education in this space to help minimize the time that it takes to learn the basics of the business, if that kind of makes sense.
Definitely. No, definitely. Like you're saying, like, to put it as like a quicker process for people could understand it and digest it quicker. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah, because they got to learn the stuff. You know, but I think there's an opportunity where we're not, you know, not babysitting, but like within what we're trying to do to help songwriters, a big friction point is how much time it takes and how confusing the business is. So if we can provide value to users and songwriters and say, hey, you just got onto the app, you haven't selected a PRO, here's some, like, here's why you should get one, here's opportunities, and then figuring that out, like, as we go down the process, like, hey, you just completed a song, do you know about copyright, do you know about XYZ to get it to the next phase, just to kind of help that the time that it takes to do all of this.
How about this? I'm gonna make it simple for you.
Yeah.
How about we talk me?
Ah, no, where'd you go? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know. My internet, your internet's good, right? But is it mine that's bad?
Yeah, like we're hardwired in here, so it's usually
it's mine. All right. Let me go to another room. Give me a second, all right?
No worries.
I'm gonna hit you right back.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
All right, this is better, right? Because I got other bars up. I'm sorry about that.
No, dude. Now you're like comfy in a relaxed chair. Perfect.
Yeah. You know, I gotta buy like a Wi-Fi extender so I can put it in my studio.
Yeah.
It's all the way at the end of my house, so it's like it doesn't get that much internet. But I have one. Look, man. You know, you're a great dude, and I just want to share something before we get to that.
Yeah.
Because I want to give you and you guys out at We Should Write Sometime a lot of credit, and I'm a super fan, man. It's fantastic that you guys are even doing this for the songwriting community and just for music itself, you know, and the way that you're connecting people to co-write in the future now. You know, you don't have to know someone to make a bomb record, man. And you guys are giving us that opportunity at a longer reach. And I came across you guys because during quarantine, I took some time to develop my branding. And I just started going in and out of different webinars with different A&Rs, with different master classes and stuff like that of different types. Yeah. And I came across one of you guys. You guys were having an interview. I don't know who it was, but it was around the quarantine era. It had just started, and you guys were presenting the We Should Write Sometime app. And I was listening to you guys, and I was inspired, man. And I was just like, dude, these guys are awesome. Like this is some hell of a stuff for like the community and just right now with technology. And I was like, dude, I wrote it down right away. And I followed you guys on Twitter. And I was like, I got to talk to these dudes and I got to download this app now.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And
I love it.
Yeah. Thanks. And I think it just comes from a place of, you know, genuine need to want to help the people that are generally struggling the most right now in the music industry. And it's, you know, musicians and songwriters. And I feel like every day I you know, get the Google alerts for what's going on in the industry, and I make sure I read them. And, you know, it's stuff like whatever streaming is wanting to, you know, do whatever. And it's never give back to the songwriter. It's never like one of those things. And it just drives me crazy because it's like, no, man, like songwriters in a very cheesy way, like they're the heart of the music industry. And
we're the ones,
like, you know, and someone that, you know, used to play music all the time and do it. So I loved it, but like, you know, hearing the greatest songwriters that I've ever heard here in Nashville and seeing them, you know, and there's greatest songwriters all over, right? Like just when I first moved to Nashville, but like, then I started learning about the actual industry and the business side of it. And then just connecting with my co-founder and what he was doing with his nonprofit to help veterans in the songwriting world. And it just kind of all clicked at the same time. But like, I would hear these songwriters when I first moved here, and they were like blowing my mind. I was like, is that guy famous or is that girl famous? Like, they're amazing. And like, then I'd go out the next night and see them bartending. And like, I just didn't get it, right? Like, I just had no idea. And they're like, no, man, like everyone here is not everyone, but so many people here are singer-songwriters, but they're also bartending and waiting and grinding it out, doing 2-3 jobs, just trying to like make it in this business. Then I started learning about the business and I was like, it's like keeping great athletes off of the field so that you can enjoy watching whatever sport they're playing, and making it really hard for them to be successful in chasing their dream. And it's like, well, where are they spending the most time? Where does the most frustrating parts? And like in the simplest form, it was, you know, when I was doing podcasts with another buddy of mine, and I was hearing these great songwriters say all the time, like, the only way I knew how to get ahead was to network, and all I wanted to like network and just go out and go to these writers rounds and do these things. And I was like hearing them talk, and then they would be saying things like, but you know, I'm an introvert, like the bar scene isn't really my scene. And you know, like that was just what I was told when I first moved here.
Yeah.
And there was just that part of me that was like, okay, that's it. Like my co-founder came to me with an idea that had to deal with his nonprofit. I had learned about this, you know, like I love the tech space and the music tech space, and it just kind of all collided at the same time. And, you know, I appreciate the kind words, and like, we have such a long way to go, but like, this is the type of conversation that, you know, I thoroughly enjoy, because then it's hearing firsthand of, you know, as of right now, we're just connecting songwriters, right? But like our vision of being able to go, well, then what, right? Like, how do we get Jae and someone from like this, you know, whoever maybe out in LA, and then get them in front of them and get them in front of them, all by them just putting in the hard work and writing great music, and us not eliminating, but slowing down or minimizing the friction that comes from the business side, and let us just kind of aggregate this platform and ecosystem of, here are the great songwriters, producers, musicians, and we can help their career or get to whatever that next level is that they want. But it starts with just kind of the swiping piece, right? Like just swipe, connect. Okay, now let's start showing that it doesn't matter exactly where you are, but if you're writing great stuff and you're working really hard, we should help them. Like if that's what they want to do, like let's help them.
Dude, that's beautiful, man. Because I'll tell you something. I learned about it, maybe 6 months ago, because it was like in the beginning of the pandemic that I came across it. And I've already worked with like 3 or 4 people.
I love it, man. I love it. And
I'm on it every day. Look, and I like the demographic stuff. And I know that's right now is a limited offer, which is really cool, because I search New York, and then I go to LA, then I go to Miami, I go to Israel, I go all over the place.
Yeah, and I can't thank you enough for that. And you know, it's once kind of those songs are ready to go, like, you know, that's where we want to hear them, even if it's just small little blurbs of whether it's a work tape.
I got you.
You know, like little work tape, or even it's like a small little demo. It doesn't have to be fully mastered and produced.
Sure.
But it's like, this is where, you know, I get excited, because it's stuff like this. Like, you are always, every time I've talked to you, you know, I feel that that excited feeling inside of me of like kind of why I'm doing it, in the sense of, we're getting a lot of songwriters on here. We start getting a lot of songs that kind of pique a lot of people's interests. And now we have some people on the other side, say, you know, the publishers that are coming to us and saying, hey man, like, who's the rising stars? Like who is getting a lot of swipes on their profiles? Like who, because there's some, just like kind of back in the MySpace day, right? There's a little bit of that discovery feel of, oh, check these people out. Like, you know, and I did that all the time. I found so many bands and artists on MySpace. I loved it, but it is kind of developing that discovery feel of, hey, you know, there's something to these people and songwriters and musicians, and we can show that, right? Like they're working hard. People want to write with them. And that's where, you know, I get excited is to hear that stuff and go, great. Like, what is the next thing that we can do to progress them in their career?
And that's fantastic, man. And it goes, now I'm bringing it back to your question about how we can help, you know, the community learn about aspect. And you took the words from, you know, from my mind, because it came to me while you were talking was to maybe it's not a restriction because you want people to become members of the community on We Should Write Sometime, but maybe there's got to be some filtering for PROs so it can take care of people's ownerships and other people and doesn't bring any problems. So maybe that's a question that could be generated, like, are you part of a PRO? Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
But here's what I have to tell you. And this is why I was saying, like, I was talking about how much I love your guys' podcast. I mean, not podcast, but app. Because it's like, dude, I want to help.
Yeah.
And, we can talk, we can have a meeting outside from this interview.
Yeah.
And come up with a master plan to help the community and the new members of We Should Write Sometime have this the accessibility to to the road and the maps at an easy but still legitimate order kind of thing. And you can count me in on that, bro. Like we could definitely do that.
We for sure will have another conversation, and I can kind of share with you some more details about the roadmap and those conversations that we're having with PROs, because it's a startup and we want to help songwriters, and traditionally in this phase, like, they're not flush with extra cash, so we got to get revenue from another source or other sources. And we have a revenue model that we're implementing soon, but what we want to do is minimize anything that is going to cost the songwriter, but then we can go to organizations like the PRO and say, hey, we have thousands of songwriters that need you, but don't know that they need you. Would you like to get in front of them? We're the gateway, right? But we're providing a service to the songwriters on the education and also business front. But then the PROs are going to start they need members. They always want members, right? But how do you get in front of the most targeted audience you can possibly have? That would be us.
That's awesome, dude.
That's one revenue source for us, right? That we see happening. That hasn't happened yet, but that way we're not going to the songwriter and being like, hey, do you want to learn about PROs? Take this class for $10, and then if you want another class, it's $40. It's like, no.
I hear you. No, and that's really smart. That's a really good way to help both sides, because at the end of the day, it's a partnership and it's an agreement, and it benefits both parties.
Exactly. So but we should definitely chat about it offline, because I think there's a lot there. But to your point, man, like it's guys like you that hustle, and I just absolutely love talking to, and I think whatever we can always do, especially at this early stage, the feedback part of it, like something we know we're going to build in, that's going to make it easier when you're writing with other guys. Like if you're with ASCAP and they're with BMI, right? Like you got to learn what IPI numbers are, and then what do you do with that? Like, how do you get paid? And so it's that stuff that we see that is going to help with the profiles and all that stuff to make all that stuff a lot easier.
Count me in, definitely.
Yeah, man. But dude, I can't thank you enough. If there's anything else we can chat about or questions you have, man, I'm all for it.
No, everything's good, man. It was great. I just wanted to, talk out there for the people who don't know We Should Write Sometime. And you guys are great. Your app is great. And I'm enjoying it so much. I've met great people. I'm working with some great people. I got a lot of work coming out. Anybody could follow me on Jae Cashtro. And I got my EP is gonna be coming out sometime in a few months. I just don't have the date yet. But I have an EP entitled Yours Truly, written and co-produced by me and my team. I have a team, a production team. Shout out to DM, Hassel, Juan Mora, and all the other guys, Joe, the manager, and all the other guys we work with. And right now we're about to release a single. That's something I'm doing for the culture. My culture, I'm Dominican, from Dominican Republic. And we have a kind of famous kind of music. It's called Dembow, and it's like dancing music, but it's like have a good time kind of thing. And I hooked up with a really good friend of mine. Shout out to Jaciel, and that's his genre. So we kind of did some crossing on there, and I put some English because it's really in Spanish. Sure. So I came in and dropped some English lyrics and kind of flow on it. So I'm excited about that. That's coming out soon. Yeah. It's called Con la Mascarilla, and that means with the mask, you know. So it's like about the whole Corona pandemic kind of thing. And it's something to have a good time with, to enjoy. You know, it's something that has been really hard against us right now. And, you know, everyone's battling, and, you know, and it's been really, really, really bad. And I just try to do something that maybe can bring some feel and some good energy to the people, to smile and just see the rainbow, you know, after the rain, man. See the sunshine, bro. And you know, it's not anything pro COVID. It's you know, it's more like, let's try to, you know, get through it and stand up like people and have a good time and kind of wear a mask. And it's like kind of telling you wear a mask, you know. And it's just to have a good time. It's a record to have a good time with. I'm also working with a great artist from England. Shout outs to Rachel McKenna, out in Yorkshire. We connected through the Albee Studios kind of record. They had a songwriting contest out there in the studio, and out of 500 entities, I shortlisted the 25th. I was one of the 25 picked. Yeah.
Congrats.
From Abbey Studios, you know, legendary studio. Shout out to the Beatles, best songwriters of all time. And it was great to be honored and to be picked, you know, as one of the songwriters after being judged by professionals like them. You know, like the people at AB Studios.
That's great, man. Congrats. That's
cool. And she reached out and we connected, and we have a record coming out. I'm excited about that. That's also about COVID. But kind of like more like it's hard to date with people. So it's kind of like pop, country pop. Like, I miss you. I wish I could see you, but you know, the other side of the world is kind of hard. But I need you to keep your spirit up. You know, we gotta trust God. We have to have faith, and we just gotta stay strong. Kind of record. So that's another. I'm excited about that. That's coming out. And yeah, man, I got a few other things lined up, but you know, they're all coming out within the next few weeks, maybe in our next few months. But I'm excited, man.
Can't wait. But dude, this won't be the last. I know of it. But thank you so much. It was
likewise,
a pleasure.
Man. Thank you. Have a great night.
Yeah, dude. I'll have one of our lovely interns cut this up and, you know, take all the stuff out. But you know, I'll make sure that we shoot it over to you to look at before we post anything. Just make sure you're cool with it.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate that, man. And thank you for your time, dude.
No, thank you, man. It's a pleasure. And thanks for your support. And let's please stay in touch very soon.
Sounds good, dude. Stay
right,
up,
man. Have a good one.
And I want to tell you, we should write sometime.
Yeah, dude. Swipe right, baby. Swipe right.
See you, man. Have a good one, man. Take care, dude.